So I originally planned to do the part 2 straight after the previous video, but I had quite a lot of stuff to do, so I had to do it on the next day, which is today. And I'm listening back, and I was working on the headphones yesterday, so that section where I was doing the arpeggio to copy the bass, when I'm listening back this morning on the speakers, it's feeling that it's not quite as accurate as I'd like it to be. Now, that doesn't discount the previous video, because there are some valid techniques for composition on there anyway, so that's cool. So what I've got is, I've got Melodyne, and we're going to take a look at analyzing the actual audio of the original remix so that we can see precisely the kind of notes that we use, because I think we want to get in a little bit more detail and try and get this a little bit more accurate. So anyway, look, let's take a look. So you can see that I've imported the track. I have in fact imported it as a video into Live because I took it from YouTube, and the audio is what I'm looking for, so that's all I'm concerned with at the moment. I'm going to drop in Melodyne, and this, what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to push transfer, and I'm going to record the first 4 bars into Melodyne. So I'm just going to stop that. It's analyzing, and it's using the DNA technology to pick out the notes used, so we can see these here. Now you can see that it's E, it's A, and E. So I got the first and last correct. I've got a feeling I haven't got the note here correct. Okay, so let's take a look. This A is, let me count up here. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually 5 semitones higher. So if we go back and we take a look, you can see that I'd set it to 7. So that was wrong. So that was my interpretation of what I was hearing through the headphones. That was incorrect. So that's at least one thing that needs correcting. So I'm sorting that out now. Now, the other thing is that you can see from the actual data on Melodyne that it's not just a straight up sequence, the arpeggiation that we had from our device. There is a subtle difference going on here, and it's not just a straight up repetition. So there is some little extra detail in here in terms of the timing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this. I'm going to come up, save as MIDI. I'm going to stick it on the desktop. I'm going to call it Kill 100 Bass. And we can now take a look at this. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just drop it in as a clip. I'm going to create a new MIDI track, and I'm going to find a file and just drag this on over here. Let's take a look. So you can see the positions are slightly different. Obviously the timing may not be entirely accurate, so maybe I'd need to quantize that. Maybe it'd be quite nice to have it loose. Maybe actually Carl Craig didn't use a straight up arpeggiator. Maybe he programmed this stuff in. Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back onto this one, and I'm going to turn off the arpeggiator, turn off the chord, keep these settings, and I'm going to bring through this clip onto this track. Let's have a listen to that, see how that feels. Okay, so look, this is where we have a deviation. There are some extra notes that I feel are not actually correct. I actually really liked a lot of that. That felt actually more close to the original than my attempt on the first go. But as I said, I still feel it was valid, the first video, because I wanted to show you how you could use the arpeggiator to create a bass line. So for any other track that would have been good, but I'm trying to get a little bit closer to the original sound. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away these. I'm pretty sure I heard something else coming through. Let me listen again. I'm not sure about some of these durations. I'm going to adjust some of these and make these shorter. Remember, it's monophonic, so it doesn't matter if the overlap's going on. It's going to switch to the next note. Okay, you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the Kill 100 here. I'm just going to listen to see how this feels at the moment. Let's bring this back. Okay, it feels like we're missing something here. I'm going to make a copy and bring this over. Yeah, I feel that's working a lot better. Now, there were some differences in the original in terms of the tone of the actual sound of the bass, so I'll look at that later. What I want to do first is just look at just getting the mix sounding a little bit more interesting, because on the original things were sounding a lot better with regards to the drums. Now, one of the things about the original was the crash felt quite wide, so I'm going to show you a little technique that we could use here. I'm going to use one of the live devices. Let's use the ping pong delay. And this is as an insert. I'm going to rotate the mix to 100% wet, take the sync off, all right, take the feedback to 0, widen the actual frequency range of the actual delay. And also what I'm going to do is adjust the time. All right, so this is very short. Let's see how that feels. Maybe somewhere about 16 milliseconds. Let's have a listen. I'm going to bypass that for you. Got a really nice wide image now. Now the same kind of processing could be applied to the clap. The clap was something that had a width to it. So I'm going to drag that over there and let's see how that feels as well. Yeah, I like that. Let me just put this all back together. Also feeling that the 808, this hat, could do a little bit of movement. And what I'm going to do with this is just stick on an auto pan. It's going to move the pan position just quite slightly. I'm not even going to do this according to the tempo. So just a little rate here, maybe slightly faster. Just going to take a look at a couple of other things. Yeah, I feel there needs to be some kind of tonal shift between the actual positions that are being played here in the bass line. So at the moment it feels pretty constant, but I remember on the original that these notes, the higher notes, had more of an energy to them. They were poking out a lot more. So what I want to do is take a look and see if there's some way that we can improve this. So the option is to basically adjust how the filter is being affected by the velocity. I'm going to take these ones up and these other notes I'm going to bring down. I'll keep a little variation there. I think that could be quite nice. And so that's that. We're going to come back to the analog and basically adjust the way that the envelope is interacting with the velocity. So I'm going to take that up. I'm going to bring the frequency down now, and I'm going to have a listen and see how this is at the moment. The other thing, of course, I need to do is to increase the envelope amount. You can feel that poking out now. So we've got this low rumble and a brighter buzz coming from the higher velocities. It's getting closer. It's still not exactly right. I'm going to experiment with the filter frequency amount. That's a bit better. I think we need to add some kind of distortion, so overdrive could be a good one to bring in. Just experimenting with the width of the filter. So for me, that's actually got a lot more movement now. I think that's closer. And I know it's not going to be identical, but what I wanted to do on this video is to show you a little bit more about the possibilities for making the sounds move. So firstly, we added the ability for the envelope to be affected by the velocity. I adjusted the envelope amount so that we were using the filter envelope here. Adjusted the frequency a little bit just to open it up a bit because it was a little bit too low when I first set that. And then added the overdrive to add some extra harmonics to the sound and give it a more kind of aggressive vibe. So I think that's working well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a little bit of a performance. I just wanted to point out that I did originally also add a chorus onto the bass, and this was the send and return. You can see this here, and I rolled off the low frequencies so it didn't make things messy on the bottom end, but it added some width. And I've also made a copy of the bass here with a high pass filter on it, like I was testing before, so I can just quickly switch between this over here using these scenes. So I'm going to do that using the Launchpad. We're going to record into the arrange window, so just going to push record, and we're going to get moving on the Launchpad with the first scene. Going to switch to the next one. And now I'm going to switch on to the high pass filter. Here we go. And then back in. Just strip it down a bit. So just showing you there some of the performance size to the Launchpad as well. So I think we got a pretty reasonably close version there. You've seen all the steps it took to get there, and there might be a little bit more work, but I think that will serve as a good demonstration of attempting to recreate a released track. I just thought I'd better add something at the end of the video because I listened back, and funnily enough, at about 7 or so minutes, I was actually preferring the sound of the bass. So I think ultimately, when you've watched this video, you might actually think that yourselves. So, one of the things that you realize is when you're making music is that sometimes as you progress, you think you can be making improvements, but sometimes you're not. So it's always good to reflect on what you've done before, always reference what you've done before and think to yourself, is it actually an improvement? One of the things that I liked about the later version of the bass was the addition of the overdrive and the tonal variation between the high and low velocities. But I think somewhere along the line, I basically lost some of the guts of the sound itself. So what I would do really to get a more accurate end result would be just to ease back on some of the overdrive. Also maybe just slightly less of that filter modulation. But I just wanted to add this as a little end video there, just to let you know that things don't always work out perfect, and it's very important to acknowledge when you're actually making music whether or not you've actually made an improvement to what you've been working on.